Hey, it's Anna. Welcome back to my channel. I feel like I've seen a lot of discourse this year. I feel like I didn't see as much last year about, how you can read so much in a year. How are people reading over 100 books or whatnot? And I know I usually do readathons, but this week I want to show just what a somewhat average reading week looks like. And I want to see if I really get all of my reading done over weekends when I do my readathons, or if I am budgeting quite a bit of time during the week to read. For me, as I feel like it should be for most people, audiobooks do count as reading, so I am doing both audiobooks, not an ebook this month, but if I had one going, I'd probably pull it up, and also my physical books. So I do have some ebooks I want to listen to this week. I do have quite a few physical books I'm also trying to read this month, so it'll be really interesting to see how the week plays out. So I'm starting this on Monday, December 11th, and today I think is going to be interesting because I actually have to go into work today. I typically work remotely, so today might be a little bit different in terms of how much reading I get to do, and I have a bowling practice tonight. So today I feel like we'll have a lot of audiobook reading in store, and I also want to take you through what other bookish content I create during the week, kind of what my creation week looks like, and really see what it looks like to be a reader and a social media book person all in a week. Starting today, I have to head to work pretty shortly after this, which means I'm going to be listening to an audiobook on my drive there. I am either on the phone while I drive or I listen to an audiobook, and I'm not going to call anybody this early in the morning. So we are going to start by listening to the 7-Year Slip. I have listened to, I would say, 65% of the book so far. So not starting a new book. I have been really enjoying the 7-Year Slip. I really just love Ashley's writing, and I am definitely a fan of her books. So once I get in the car, I can look at exactly how much time I have left with the audiobook, so we can really try to be time conscious of how much audiobook time I'm listening to. In terms of how we're going to track that for the physical books, I saw a video where somebody uses like a little timer app where they grow trees to record how much they're reading, and I've started using it. And it's not the exact same app because the app they used was paid for. Mine is free. I might switch for the paid one at some point because it's $4, so it's not a ridiculous cost, but I want to see if I can get through fully my free app and then get to the paid for app. So that's how we'll be tracking time for physical reading, and then obviously audiobook reading. I'll just have to make sure to look at Libby before I lose my mind. So let's get in the car and see what part of the 7-Year Slip we are at. All right, I have 3 hours and 18 minutes left of the 7-Year Slip, so I'm about to get in my car. I forgot to mention that we have already filmed one TikTok today because I do my book advent calendar, and then I also post that to Instagram Reels later in the day. So there's already been some book creation going on this week. The advent calendar only happens in December, so I don't always get this opportunity, but I'm super grateful for it because I try to post 4 times a day on TikTok, once a day on Instagram, and once a day on YouTube Shorts, and once a day on Twitter. So trying to get all that content in does take up time during my week. I pretty much have my content planned this week for the majority of those, but I think I still have to take a few photos and do some edits. So that's definitely going to be later in the week. First, I got to get to my real job that makes me my money, and it's about a 40-minute drive because we don't really live close to anything. So I definitely get a lot of audiobook hours driving. Let's start the 7-Year Slip and get to work. All right, we just pulled into work. I have about 2 hours and 38 minutes left of the 7-Year Slip. I was able to get about 40 some minutes in. So starting off Monday, pretty strong. I usually do some reading technically before work. Typically it's physical reading, but obviously with driving today, it didn't really work out. And I usually also listen to a book sometimes during work. I don't think I'll have that chance today, but it'll be interesting to see where the day takes us in terms of reading. And then tonight will definitely be a little more bookish content focused rather than reading, but I'm hoping to still sneak in some physical reading if I'm not too tired. All right, I am exhausted from working. I was able to listen to a little bit more of the audiobook on the drive home, so now I have 2 hours and 5 minutes left of the 7-Year Slip. I am going to try reading a little bit of Children of Blood and Bone tonight. I'm currently on page 186. I'm really enjoying this book so far. I am very anxious to see what happens because I feel like this is a book where I am definitely just along for the ride. I want to see what happens. I'm not really making any predictions, and I kind of like having books like that physically. So far I haven't read anything physically. I'm really hoping to get some pages in tonight. And this week is interesting because I am doing quite a bit of bookish stuff, but I actually don't know how much reading I am going to get done because tomorrow I am actually meeting an author at Anderson's, and then Wednesday we have a band concert for some of our bowlers. Thursday is bowling practice, and then we're to into the weekend on Friday. So maybe I do most of my readings on the weekend, which I don't inherently think is an issue for when to get reading in. But I really thought I read more during the week. We'll just have to see what the next few days bring. But this is definitely interesting to reflect on my own personal reading habits. So in the morning, I'll update you on Tuesday in terms of where we are at. I have done no book social media either. Whoopsie daisy. Maybe next time I'll be a little more on top of it. All right, it is Tuesday morning. I did listen to a little bit more of the 7-Year Slip last night, so I have about an hour and 49 minutes left. So I think I have listened to about an hour and a half of audiobooks so far. And then for reading, I did read 40 physical pages of Children of Blood and Bone. My eyes were literally closing. I felt so bad, and I love that book so far. It's really good. I was just exhausted from working in person for the first time in a while. It's just a different experience, and then coaching bowling, driving all over the place. A little bit of a tiring day yesterday. So I woke up today with a little bit of a headache, but now I am in my filming area because I'm going to spend a little bit of time filming video reviews for some books, and then in about a half an hour I have to go to work. So I'm just going to see how many reviews I can film within that 30-minute time frame. And then during work today, I know I have some repetitive tasks that I am supposed to do, so I usually listen to an audiobook during those. I might try to walk on the treadmill, we'll see. And then I'm really excited for tonight when I get to go to Anderson's to meet Geneva Rose. I'm gonna be so honest, her books were not my favorite the first two I read, but then her latest audio original release, Crime Time, I loved it. I thought it was really entertaining. I had a lot of fun listening to it. And I had a similar experience with Talia Hibbert, where the first two books I read by her I didn't really like, but then the third book I read by her, I was like, okay, I'm kind of turned on to the author now. So I'm excited for that, and I hope I get a little bit of physical reading in, but I realistically don't know if that's going to happen today, which is totally okay. So we'll just have to see how much I can read, and I am anticipating, because I'm driving all the way to Anderson's, and it's about, I think, an hour to an hour and a half for me. I anticipate finishing the 7-Year Slip today and starting my next audiobook, which I'm super excited about. Let's film some reviews, get to work, and I'll catch up with you later today. All right, it is Wednesday morning. I was able to finish the 7-Year Slip yesterday, which was fantastic. I really like Ashley's writing, so I'm really happy I got an opportunity to read it. It did almost make me cry. I think the only reason I didn't cry was because I was driving. And then I started Assistant to the Villain, which I feel like is pretty big on Book Talk. And I didn't realize it was almost like 14 hours of an audiobook. And because Anderson's, the place where I met Geneva Rose, is like an hour and a half away, I ended up listening for 3 hours. And I feel like of the 3 hours, I listened to half of the 7-Year Slip, so about an hour and a half of it. Then I listened to an hour and a half of Assistant to the Villain, and nothing happens. I feel like nothing has happened in that entire book. So I'm about an hour and 21 minutes into Assistant to the Villain. So in terms of how much we have listened to books this week, it's been about, I think it's been about 4 hours and like 40 minutes. I did not read anything physical yesterday, so still only read 40 pages. Reflecting on this, I think I really have only read as many books as I have this year because of weekends and because of audiobooks. But last night did do something bookish in meeting Geneva Rose for her audiobook #Crime Time. I have already listened to it. I got it sent to me early, and I don't know what I'm rating it yet, but I feel like it's definitely going to be over a 4 stars for me. It could be 5 stars. I've really been reflecting on it for the past few days. And because it was an audiobook and she wrote it with her husband signed this card, and so did she. There were other books that you could purchase there and bring. So I brought The Perfect Marriage, which I recently got in my book advent calendar, and she signed it. I believe it's a first edition. I don't know how my husband does it. So that was really exciting. And then I decided, because I liked Crime Time so much, to try a few more of her books. So this is her romance that's published by Amazon. It's A Date Again, and it's like an amnesia type of dating romance, I believe. I don't really know too much about it. Shocker, I know. And so we got that one signed. And then One of Us is Dead. My friend Amy swears by this book. She says it's really good. So I also picked that one up when I was there, and we got that one signed. And this one is extra fun because she put Snip Snip as a little addition. So that's really exciting. Today, I'm hoping to get to some physical books. I don't know though. And I'm going to end this video when the workday ends on Friday to really see how much I read during the week. But I'm guessing I mostly read on weekends in order to get to my books. But so far we finished one book during the week via audiobook, which is really exciting. We'll see if we can finish another, maybe. So let's get started with our Wednesday. All right, good morning. It is bright and early on a Thursday. So we have today and the work day part of tomorrow to see how much can be read. I was able to listen to more of Assistant to the Villain. I'm about 2 hours and 47 minutes in. That book was big on social media, so I got it. The narrator, I feel like, does not fit the book. The book is also in dual perspectives, and for me, dual perspectives book are harder on audiobooks when you only have one narrator, it just is a little bit harder to follow along with who's who, especially when it's written in third person and so the narrator doesn't have a reason to change their voice that much. So that one's a little bit harder to read for me, but still pushing through it. I don't think it's bad. I just don't think there's necessarily like a plot to it. I don't know, so we'll have to see. We ended up going to a band concert for some of our bowlers, but I did read about 20 more pages of Children of Blood and Bone, so I'm about 60 pages into this book this week. My goal is when we come home from practice tonight to really focus on reading, so I want to read more of Children of Blood and Bone, and I have to make myself read more of The Night Ship. This book is also kind of boring. So we don't have the best lineup or books outside of Children of Shadow and Bone. And then in terms of what other book social media stuff I have to do, I have quite a few reviews to edit and some shorter videos to edit. So I need to make sure that I do those today. And so I'm going to try to do those in the morning. And then if I have some extra time, then I'll probably try to read Children of Blood and Bone, because that's the book I'm definitely more drawn to than The Night Ship. The Night Ship, it's not bad. There's just so much description and I don't know how the two are going to overlap fully yet. I just really don't know. So maybe I'll like it, but it's definitely a rougher start of a book. That's where we're at for Thursday. So far this week I've read 80 physical pages, and I have listened to about, I would say, I'll have to do the exact calculations at the end of this, but I think it's definitely over 5 hours. It's maybe at 6 now. So I feel like quite a bit of time has been devoted to reading this week, and I'm hopeful that now that there's not another afternoon activity that's too long, I can even get in some more reading tonight. So let's see what I can accomplish. Quick correction for Children of Blood and Bone. Pretty sure I've only read an additional 60 pages. I think I said 80 earlier, but I meant 60 in my heart of hearts. So that's where we're at. Again, I just finished editing all of the TikTok, so I'm going to take care of the dogs, maybe, have a little breakfast, and then see if I can get some reading in. I have about an hour and 10 minutes before I'm supposed to start work, so I'm really hopeful to actually get some reading in the morning finally. All right, good morning. It is Friday morning. I know sometimes I start my readathons on Friday, so luckily today, maybe a little unluckily, is we have a vet appointment at 3:30. So technically in my head, that's still kind of during the workday, so my readathons do start on Fridays. However, I'm just going to count any reading I do before that vet appointment, and then by the time we get home from the vet appointment, that's going to be the cutoff of how much I feel like I read in a week. So yesterday, I feel like was actually a very good reading day. I got to use my app Flora for the first time, where I am able to just set my phone aside and you plant a virtual tree, and then if you go off that screen and don't pause it, then you kill the tree. And I just, it keeps me off my phone a little bit more. I feel like I was, especially after wisdom tooth surgery, when I first couldn't focus back on reading, I was drawn to my phone so much more than I was anticipating. So I just feel like I needed a little bit of help just to refocus on reading. And so the Flora app has been really great. I know there's a paid for app. I think that's a little more extensive, but there's a lot with Flora right now in terms of unlocking all the different trees. And I feel like if I unlock all the different trees, then I can justify paying for the other application. So I am just about 3 hours into Assistant with the Villain. I don't know what's going on. I feel like it doesn't really have a plot, but I don't know. I think I'm going to push through to finish the 12 hours I have left. Didn't realize how long of an audiobook that was, but in terms of audiobooks at this point, I think I've listened to about 3 hours and 18 minutes worth of audiobooks. Children of Blood and Bone, I've definitely made some progress. Whenever I switch from the front flap to the back flap of a hardcover, because I use that as a bookmark, I always feel such a sense of pride that I'm getting through the book. So I'm on page 338. I believe I started around 187. So I don't know what that math is, but I will do that math. So I feel like I have read quite a bit of Children of Blood and Bone this week. And then our book club book, man, it's definitely not a book for me at this point. I am 75 pages in. I started at page 47 yesterday, so I have read almost 30 pages because I told myself that I needed to read it for half an hour before I could read Children of Blood and Bone. That's kind of my litmus test, I guess, for what I am going to try to do in terms of getting through that book, because I think if it was my choice, I might even not continue to read it at all. So I am very proud of the amount that I've read. I definitely want to try reading a little bit of the physical books that I have before jumping into work today, because I thought I would have no meetings today and now I have 4. I don't know how that happens to me every week. I'm always like, oh, maybe this Friday I can catch up on some stuff, and then I never can. Usually the times that I can catch up on work that's kind of in backlog, that's when I can really listen to more of an audiobook. Obviously obviously on meetings, I can't do that. So after I take care of the dogs, I'm definitely jumping back into Children of Blood and Bone. That's for sure. I am not going to pick up my book club book until maybe tonight when I start my weekend reading. That's definitely going to happen. I don't feel like picking it up this morning. I don't know what it is about the book club book. This is the second book club book that I feel like in a row is more character driven and I'm not just like as drawn to it. For me, I definitely need a little bit of plot. So that's why I feel like I'm just running through Children of Blood and Bone. I feel like it's so action packed. I feel like it's taking a different direction than I was expecting. I am not sure what other people have rated it, but I'm really enjoying it. Hopefully I can get at least 30 minutes of reading in before work. We'll see. And then I will be probably wrapping up this video to tell you exactly how much I read over a week. And then I want to do a calculation of if I read exactly that for the 52 weeks of the year, in theory, how many books could I potentially finish. My weekend reading probably helps me a lot is what I'm realizing at that point, but I feel like that's probably common for most people that they use the weekend for more of their hobbies. So it'll be interesting to look at the stats once this video is wrapped up. All right, it is the night of Friday, so let's look at everything I read during the week. First off, finishing the 7-Year Slip. I listened to 3 hours and 18 minutes of that. Then I've started Assistant to the Villain, which I don't know if I want to continue reading, but it's okay for now. We'll see how it goes. I have listened to 3 hours of that, so I've listened to 6 hours and 18 minutes of books just this week. So the average audiobook is 8 to 12 hours according to Google, so I'm going to say 10 hours would get me a full audiobook. There are 52 weeks in a year, so I'm going to multiply my 6.25 hours by 52 and see how many hours that would be total. I got 325 hours, so let's divide that by 10, which brings me to about 32 audiobooks a year. I'm definitely over that. I feel like this was definitely just like, a slower week in terms of listening to audiobooks, but I still feel like if you are able to read really anything during the year, it's impressive, but this at least gets you a decent portion, almost a third of the way to being able to read 100 books in a year. Now let's talk physical books. I got even farther with Children of Blood and Bone. I am now on page 396. I started at 187, so I have read 211 pages of this book, along with the 28 pages I read of my book club book. I don't even want to talk about that book club book. It's boring. I feel like I have 2 books that I just really don't care about, and right now this Children of Blood and Bone is my saving grace book, and I'm almost done with it. I'm a little nervous, but no big deal. So I'm going to take my 211 pages plus my 28 pages of my other books to get 239 pages and multiply that by 52. That gets me 12,428 pages in a year. So the average book is between 200 to 400 pages. So let's divide this number by 300 and see how many books I would get. I would get 41 and a half-ish books. So if I just read on the pace that I did every week without counting any weekends, I would have a total of 73 books read during the year. And again, that's without weekends included. So I feel like it's just all about where, again, you put your time. This week, I was still able to go to a band concert to support my bowling students. I had bowling practice twice this week. I went to an author event this week as well. So I feel like I was still able to have a balanced life while still prioritizing reading as my main hobby. So I feel like it's still possible to see yourself getting over 100 books, but again, it just all depends on the timing. And again, I feel like reading speed and how thick the books are that you read, right? Because for example, Children of Blood and Bone is over that 300 page average, but I also have read some books shorter than 300 pages this year. So I feel like it just all depends on where you line and what hobby you want to prioritize. I will say for me personally, I am somebody that doesn't have kids. I also really haven't been exercising the way that I want to because I still feel like I'm recovering from wisdom tooth surgery. So I haven't taken a step back into exercising because of how little I'm currently eating because I'm so paranoid about my teeth. So reading has definitely been some type of sanctuary for me. And throughout this week, I've still been able to post 4 TikToks a day, 1 YouTube short, 1 Instagram photo, and 1 Twitter post during the day as well. So I've still been able to do all of that bookish social media content as well. So overall, I feel like if you want to set your reading goal for 100 books, I think it's prioritizing where you want to spend your time, right? But if you want to set your reading goal as 1 book a month, 1 book a year, I still just think being able to read and let yourself escape into another world is just something really fun to do. It's not for everybody, but if it's something you're looking to get into, I feel like you don't need to get intimidated by a reading goal. It should be just reading books that you're excited to read. Obviously, right now, some of my books I am not as excited to read, but that is definitely on me to change that that and not on anybody else. We are down to one video left for a full year of posting in a row, which I feel like is a decent accomplishment for me. I know what I wanted that video to be, but I'm not gonna hold anything to it because I'm not sure what my schedule looks like the next upcoming week. I'm actually traveling for work 3 days next week, so I'm not 100% sure what the video will be next, but I definitely in January want to go through and reflect on some of my past videos, set a new TBR for the year, go through all my book advent calendar books. So I'm really excited for the content coming up over the next few weeks, and hopefully you will stick around with me.